Welcome back to the Infinity Podcast, episode number 16. Today I'm here with Derek Vickers. He is the founder and CEO of Vicktory Capital, a firm that owns and operates north of 2,100 mobile home units across 44 communities in the southeastern U.S. He's also the host of the MHP Show podcast, where he educates investors and operators on affordable housing strategies, mobile home park investing, and all things real estate that actually work. Derek and we actually met over at Race Fest in February in Arizona, and we just hit it off instantly. We got in touch, and we've been, close ever since. So, Derek, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, Zeus, I appreciate you having me on, man. I know when we met, I remember I see this young guy, I don't know how tall you are, but you're a tall dude, right? How tall are you? 6'4". I'm like, I need to go talk to this guy. So we chatted, and I love like young entrepreneurs like yourself that are ambitious and going and doing trying to make it happen, because when I was your age, I wasn't. I was too busy partying. So
Yeah, Derek, for those in the audience who don't know about your background, could you tell us a little bit more how you got started in real estate and how your career trajectory has changed over time?
Yeah, for sure. So I moved to Florida with $300 in my pocket in 2012, and literally moved down there, knew no one, and I started selling insurance door to door because I didn't want to go back to a 9 to 5 thing that I was doing. I was working in grocery stores and stuff. I was a loser. Like, let's be honest, right? And I didn't want to go back to that, so I'm like, I read a book that was like, hey, commission salespeople make more money than doctors and whatever. And so I started doing that. I made 13 grand my first year, got my ass kicked. Second year, made like 30 grand my first year. Most people would have quit, but I was not going back to the 9 to 5 thing. Like, it just wasn't going to happen. And then, it was in 2015, I actually discovered Grant Cardone, and he was talking about real estate. And he's like, oh, real estate is actually how people build wealth. I'm like, oh, this is how people do. I thought people that just had a net worth of $100 million, I thought they just got a W-2 that said, hey, I got paid $100 million this year. But it wasn't like that, right? Because they didn't teach us that in school in the middle of nowhere, Virginia. But yeah, so I started like learning how to underwrite apartment deals and things. So I started looking at those deals. And then it was 2020. By this time, I had built my insurance business up. I had 100 salespeople. I was doing really, really well. And then COVID happened, and so no one wanted to buy freaking insurance. And I was like, okay, I got to get this real estate thing going because I'm still susceptible to the economy. And I started looking at multifamily deals. I'm like, man, these numbers just aren't that exciting. And I had a friend that was investing in mobile home parks. Boom, I learned about the asset class. I'm like, man, I really love the fundamentals and many other things about it. And I was like, okay, this is the asset class. And so what I did, I found a list of all the mobile home parks in Florida. And I literally, between my insurance meetings with my staff and things, I would cold call. I was cold calling the park owners because I was good at that. I had to learn in the insurance business how to like make shit happen out of nothing, right? And so I was good at drumming up business, and so it was easy for me to call and be like, "Hey, I'm actually want you to say, I want to buy something from you," instead of like, "Hey, do you want to? Can I sell something?" And that's how I got started in mobile home parks and got my first deal like 6 months after that.
How did you go about getting your first deal? Was it partnering up with someone else or just a straight cold calling as well?
Yeah, so it was cold calling, but I'd actually in between that, I actually met with a guy who ended up being a partner of mine. He had lived not too far down the street from me, and he'd done some mobile home park deals before. And he had cash, and I'd met with him, and like I started to develop a relationship with him. I was just sending him deals, like, hey, this is how I'm underwriting this deal. Like, where am I off? And he started just kind of coaching me through the underwriting. And then I knew he had this park under contract. He had told me about that he was doing a deal with someone. And it was close to my insurance office, and it was a shit show of a park. I'm sorry. Can we, the cursing rule on here? Is there a cursing rule on here?
No, it's not.
Okay, good. Okay, good. It inevitably happens for me. So he had this park, and it was a dog, man. It was terrible. Like it was you drove by this park, Zeus, you'd be like, okay, no. I'm sure you know of a trailer park where you are, where you're like, this one's nasty.
I've seen
That
a
was this
few.
one. I get a call from him one day and he's like, hey, Derek, I have this deal. You know which one it is. My operating partner backed out. We're closing in 7 to 10 days. Do you want in on the deal? He's like, I want you to go in and operate the deal. And I'm like, I'll call you back. I didn't say yes there. So I got off the phone and I'm like, oh, dude, you just do it, dude. This is your opportunity. So I took it. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And so that's how I got my first deal, was kind of like, and I'm telling you, like, when you're out there taking action and like you're really committed to something, like stuff will happen. Like I was ready for that opportunity, right? If you like, that just doesn't happen to someone who's like, okay, sitting at home waiting for something to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. You got to go out and make it happen. I always preach that. That's good. Derek, I have a question. So right now you've scaled to over like 2,100 units in mobile home park investing. How did you go about scaling? Because that's one of the biggest questions I have, particularly in real estate.
Yeah. So, it's, look, I think a lot of it was we were able to, like I said in the beginning, I'm good at finding deals and making deals happen because, like, I'm not like this big guy from New York. I could actually go to the sellers and see them in person, and they love that, right? And so I think to scale, like how we scaled it, it sort of happened like by accident because I just kept finding good deals, and they're like good deals that like, okay, we have to take that one. Man, we can't pass up on this one. Oh yeah, we have to take that one too. And so it kind of morphed into this because me and my business partner, like, we didn't plan on doing any other, like, just that one deal. But then before you know it, we had five, and then we had 10. And then by the end of 2021, we had like, I think we had bought 18 deals in that year. And we had like 900 or 1,000 units. And it was crazy, man. It was crazy. And like, we did a lot of stuff wrong. Like, I did a lot of stuff wrong, like not being prepared to scale the operations. Like I made a ton of mistakes as far as like not putting in the right systems and processes in the beginning because I
Can
didn't
you tell
know.
us through
Like we were
those?
just like, oh my God, we're finding these good deals, right? But we actually made an acquisition that took us from 400 units to like 900 in one swipe. That was when all the systems started breaking. Well, the lack thereof, because it was really
Yeah.
just like two
Yeah.
guys in a truck before, you
Yeah.
know.
Tell us a little bit more about the systems that you have now in place so that you could like manage all these different operations. Because I know you're a busy guy doing all these things. It's like how do you delegate? How do you operationalize your systems and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, look, in mobile home parks, the interesting thing about mobile home parks, so like apartments, you go and buy an apartment building, you can find a property management company. They're a dime a dozen that does it. There's really not any that do mobile home park operations. So what people don't tell you is that you have to actually build your own property management company too. And I think the systems of handling, collections properly, because if the money doesn't come in, like, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to lose the deal. Like, you're the park's going to get foreclosed on. So that's important, right? So having collections processes in to actually collect the rent, and for people that don't pay rent, like, what is the process for them to either get paid or get them out? That's important. And also, depending on your business model, whether you are, I don't want to get into the weeds of mobile home parks, maybe we will, but like your value add strategy, like who's managing those projects, right? And who is like handling that, right? Project management is big. And just like, how are you, if you have a manager, like the way we do it, we have a regional manager that'll manage like 3 or 4 or 500 lots in an area, because we buy in clusters. Like we find a market we like, and then bang, we're going to buy a bunch of stuff in that market. So how can like we have the what I like to call the virtual office that essentially handles like all the tenant stuff, all the little stuff that like the property manager doesn't necessarily need to handle, and then the regional manager can handle more high value tasks. So it was a lot of trial and error to find that worked, but I think you just have to have what's important And then, mobile home parks will be different than industrial. It's different than storage, but, collecting the rent is important in all of them.
Right. Completely agree. And when you're going out and selecting different mobile home park units to invest in and to acquire, like what market fundamentals are you looking at? Like how do you decide which properties to acquire?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so I like the big, competitive, high barrier to entry markets. So I'm heavily invested in Tampa and the I-4 corridor in Florida. So that's like Orlando. Like Orlando's probably the south part of Orlando from the north part of Tampa is probably 45 minutes. So the whole corridor there is developing massively. So I love those areas, the hot markets, like Phoenix and Tucson is a good market, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, like big markets. Charlotte, we own some stuff around Charlotte. Um, I like to have at least 1 million people or more in the MSA, at least, right? That's a big metric for me. Also, if you're in those MSAs, all of the other criteria is going to be there because the apartment rents are high. There's no affordable housing. There's not much of it at all, and it is very hard to build a mobile home park in those areas. You can't. Like if I buy a storage facility, Zeus can come build one next door. The zoning for mobile home parks is the gold because the zoning on them is legal non-conforming, meaning it was legal when it was built, but it's not legal now, right? Like you couldn't build it again. So like there's a natural supply constraint with mobile home parks. Like they can't be built. And there's actually, more guys like you, Zeus, developers, they're going in and like actually scraping the mobile home parks that are in the middle of LA or Tampa or wherever. And they're building, 400 units of apartments there. Right. So it's like mobile home parks naturally have a decreasing supply and a rising demand because affordable housing is such a need. But that's generally what I look for in the market.
Do you have any experience in the affordable housing sector in real estate or no?
Well, I mean, mobile home parks, that's
Yeah,
affordable housing.
yeah, that's true. And what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced, like in regards to mobile home park investing and acquisitions and all that?
Yeah, I mean, like if we look back to 2021, it was interesting because like, rates were 4%, right? From a like regional lender, like in Fannie and Freddie were like 275 basis points. Like
It was free money.
it was crazy. It was crazy. And so like you didn't see as many deals. Like we closed every deal we put under contract. Like if you were like, okay, we found something, but you could still make sense of the deal. Now, the challenge now is that things that used to not kill deals will kill deals because you're coming in at a 7%, 7.5% interest rate. So it gives you a little bit less margin of error. So I think you have to have more deal flow now. There's also pricing expectations are still high to a degree, but we're seeing some change in that. That's a challenge. As far as market and acquisitions currently, I think, when you're scaling, the biggest challenge is just getting your operations in order and being able to manage these things. I mean, that is just an important aspect of it because if you can't operate the damn thing like effectively, I don't know what to tell you, right? So it is an important aspect along with the other things. But I think that's the biggest challenge is just not having the right systems in place at first to scale effectively and efficiently.
Right. That makes complete sense. And how is it that you structure your deals nowadays? Is it mainly through syndications or fund models, or are you just like buying it like all out cash on your end?
Yeah, so it was syndication model, but we're doing a fund right now, our first equity fund, and we've shifted to that model just because I think I don't know, I just kind of like the model better. than the syndication model. And so our fund now is it's up to we're raising 20 million for the fund. It's up to 20 million for that, and we're going to buy parks in the Sun Belt. And we pay a preferred return. We do quarterly distributions. It's value add deals that we're buying, and I don't think we'll go back to the syndication model. I mean, I think maybe if we find a one-off deal and we're like, hey, we're not going to do this one in the fund, we'll probably do it. But I like the fund model better. And the interesting thing, Zeus, about this fund, and so we just closed a couple of deals that were syndications, like they weren't in the fund. And we're working our pipeline all the time. I got an acquisitions team, and we're okay. Hey, we're doing the fund, and then all these acquisitions come in. So it's like it turns from a blind pool fund to like we're sort of raising in the fund to close these deals coming up. So it's almost like kind of still in the syndication or not, because we have all these deals that just flooded in, and we're like, shit, we're going to put them in the fund. And it's just funny how that works.
Yeah. How are you going about raising the capital for your fund? Is it mainly through cold outreach, or do you guys have like a funnel system, lead gen system and whatnot?
Yeah, so we have a lead gen system. I have people that have invested with me over time. I have people that I've Raise Fest. I met some great fund managers that we're looking at working with on deals. Friends and family. I have someone that we've brought in the business that is making introductions for us to go basically, get bigger checks, right? I've got, relationships with private equity and family office, which we haven't really gone down that road yet, but it's really kind of an all hands on deck. And I like the fund model because you can be more flexible with, side letters and things. If you have a guy, it's like, hey, I'll give you better terms if you're writing a $5 million check, So it's, I forget what I was going to ask her in your question. Oh, you were asking about the investor leads. So we have a funnel too. Like we're running ads on Facebook, but I'll tell you that although it's grown our email list and we have gotten some checks from that, I think it's the jury's still out if that is actually a good way to do it or not.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's all relationship based, which is true. And Derek, I'm really, really bullish on artificial intelligence within real estate. I want to ask you, how are you implementing these new technologies into your business?
Well, some of those I can't tell you. Some of those I can't tell you. So my COO is an AI nerd, right? And so we are doing some pretty cutting edge things with AI. Maybe not cutting, maybe other people are doing them too. But just we use it daily. Like to go over legal docs to help us create like bulletproof leases from notices and things like that. Um, I think at some point we may not even have someone that answers the tenant calls. It'll be AI that's handling that. I think we're really, really close to that. AI cold calling to owners. Like we actually looked at a system and it's not quite there, but it's close. I give it another 12 months and it's like you're not going to be able to tell the difference. Um, but we have some other proprietary things we're using it for in operations. Because my COO, he's like a kind of a programming, like he loves that stuff. So we have some really cool things that he's built in the background to like help our staff and operations and things like that.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And where do you see the real estate market as a whole headed into the future? Because right now in the commercial sector, it's not looking too bright. People are waiting for, interest rates to lower, but there's so much uncertainty regarding the tariffs and whatnot. So all transactions are mainly at a halt right now. So I want to see where you see the market in the next 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, look, I think the people that think that they're waiting for interest rates to lower, yeah, keep waiting because I'm going to buy. So you can wait until interest rates lower. They're not. I mean, I don't see that happening, at least until, Jerome Powell, I mean, he's going to be in there until May of next year. So he obviously doesn't like Trump. So he's not going to do anything with rates. But when Trump gets another guy in there, maybe we'll see some movement in rates. But until then, like, you're going to have to deal with the treasuries are still at, I don't know I think the 5 year today is, most of our debt is based on the 5 years at 4 or 3.9 or something like that. Um, I just, for me, I'm sticking to my fundamentals. I'm sticking to my fundamentals. And if we can make the deal work at 7%, like, do I think rates will come down in 5 years? If you would have asked me this 6 months ago, I would have been like, oh yeah, definitely. But now I'm like, I don't know. I
It's
don't know.
iffy.
It's iffy, right?
Yeah.
But the great thing about the deals that we buy, like, we're buying these value add deals and we're making them into a 10 or 12 cap in the first year, the first 18 months. So I don't give a shit if rates go to 9%. We'll still be fine. Like, our equity multiples, yeah, they're not going to be as good. I get that. But we're still going to be good, and the fundamentals of the asset class are still good, because in year 5, it'll be a 14 cap. So it's still going to be a great deal. Like, it's still going to be a great deal. And, I think if you're a guy that's buying at a 4 and looking to sell at an 8, you got a little bit more risk. We have more execution risk, but I have the confidence in myself and our team that we can actually do that, and we take the execution risk off the table. So, I don't know what the market's going to do. I mean, you just don't know, because Jerome Powell could freaking come out tomorrow and say, hey, or they can send their made up numbers out again and say the jobs report is whatever. Inflation is actually stopped. They could make it up. And then Jerome Powell's like, hey, I think we're going to do, 100 basis points next Fed meeting. And then everybody's happy again, and everybody thinks rates are going back to 4, right? And so the sentiment can change like that, right? But as of right now, I love the chaos. I love the chaos, because if you can pull yourself out of it, pull yourself out of the wars and all the other bullshit that's going on, you can, like, okay, let's just take our deal fundamentals and still go find value regardless of what is going on. And with tariffs and all the other shit that's going on, it's like, okay, like, it's just kind of noise, it's noise.
Yeah, I completely agree. And no one knows where the market's going to be. I saw this post by Rob Beardsley. He mentioned how it's better just to understand where you are in the cycle, instead of trying to time the cycle and buying here and then selling here and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I think that's great advice. Like, I'm just looking for deals that I am certain that we can add value in. Like, whether the cycle is whatever, like, if we're at the top, right? But if I know I can still go in and add value to this deal, it doesn't matter if we're at the top, because I'm going to go in and add value. And if the market tanks, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as much, right? Now, look, if they say, "Hey guys, interest rates are 20%," everybody's fucked. Like, not just me, everybody, right? So, I think what Rob says has a lot of truth to it. And this is another reason why I love mobile home park, Zeus, is because we're not as susceptible as to all this stuff, because the cheapest place in town, if the US goes into a recession, like, people don't want to lose the cheapest place in town. They're not going to go pay more, right? They're not going to go pay more, because the step below us is like living under the bridge. I mean, so people don't want to lose their house, because it's there's no place cheaper that they can get. But the person that was in a B class apartment or a C class apartment, because they're even expensive now, um, they may come down. And so if we do have someone leave, we have massive demand to come in and get that, buy that particular unit and stay there. So yeah,
that's another great point. Another great point to the fundamentals of mobile home park investing. That's
for
great.
sure.
Yeah. Derek, you mentioned leaving the 9 to 5, and I want to hear this. Like, what mindset shifts, like, what caused you to have this, like, motivation to escape the rat race and then go into, becoming, an entrepreneur and just doing your own thing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I remember there was just like a day I was working this 9 to 5 job. I was the office manager for a like landscaping company. I was making $9 an hour. This was in maybe 2010. And I just like woke it was almost like one day I snapped out of it. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. Like there's more to this, there's more to life, there's more to what. And I just had this like I knew I wanted to like go out and do something and didn't want to be stuck in that waiting for my $300 paycheck every Friday. Like it was terrible. It was awful. Right. And hanging out with the same loser friends that I was hanging out with and doing the same stupid stuff. Sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say, what have been some of the strategies that you have like used recently to stay like on that entrepreneurship, mindset and grind? Is it like because it's not easy, especially when you're like transitioning from your regular corporate 9 to 5 job and then trying to do something on your own?
Yeah. Like what do you mean? Like what do you do to stay in that mindset?
Yeah, yeah, to like to keep that mode up.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just there. Like once it's there, like it's for me, it was just there. And it was just a never like, okay, I'm gonna go do that. I'm not gonna do this again. And it was just like I'm not even gonna think about that again. So it wasn't even like a thought. But I wasn't making 100 grand a year either. If somebody's making 250 in a corporate job, I could see where you could be like, okay, well, why would I go do this? Um, but I think it's just depending on what your goals are. If you have big goals, like I think that's going to pull you forward and not listening to idiots. Like, don't listen to people that are not in a position that you want to be in. Like, if you want to have a great marriage, don't listen to the guy that's been divorced 4 times.
Respect,
It's
dude.
it's quite simple. Like, if you want to be wealthy, don't listen to the person that's not wealthy. Like,
Yeah. You're always the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's good.
yeah,
And
totally, dude.
Derek, like a lot of my audience, they're younger individuals who listen to my podcast in college. Like, what advice would you give them? Because a lot of them are like, they really want to be entrepreneurial, but they're scared to take that risk for XYZ reasons. So, what would be some of the tips that you could give them?
Yeah, so they're not going to like the tip I'm going to give them, but it's okay. It's okay. So, one, yes, I would say to stop hanging out with losers. You don't need to go fucking party every night. Like I told Zeus before this, you can still go shake one out in a week, maybe two, but you don't got to do it every night like I did. It's just a big waste of time. Like I did it every single night for 5 years, right? Maybe longer, 6 years. Um, I just wouldn't waste time doing that. And you're young, like you literally have no risk. You don't have a family, you don't have that many bills. Like this is actually the best time for you to do it and start networking. You're in college. Like I would say join a fraternity, dude. Like and go meet people. Where are the wealthy people in the school? And what do their parents do? Like these are the people that you want to network with, right? Um, I would use it as a networking tool and going out and meeting more people and find out who the movers and shakers are. And actually skills you could develop, like go lead something instead of being in the fraternity, go be the president of the fraternity or start a group because you learn leadership skills and things like that. And I never did any of that. I never did any of that. But if I went back there now, I would definitely do some of that and go ahead and start putting yourself in situations that scare you a little bit. So you can kind of get numb to being uncomfortable and being a leader and having to make like decisions and things like that. Because if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to do that, and you're going to have the like when you're the guy, right? You're going to have to manage like partnership, like there's a lot to juggle. Like you have to like strategically, you're giving equity away here because you're bringing in this partner, but you have to strategically do it because you don't want this partner to think some way. So there's like a lot of strategy to it, and I think some of that could help you. But don't fucking go party every night, dude. Like don't.
Yeah. That question kind of leads me on to your response leads me on to the next question I was going to ask you, which is like, what would be the pieces of advice that you would give to your 18-year-old self?
Yeah, yeah, and I really don't think I've been asked this question, but I would have went and like punched that guy in the face and said like, "Wake up, dude! Like, wake up, bro! Life is not about partying. It's not about drinking. It's not about girls. Like, that's not all that it's about, dude. Like, you need to go make something of yourself and quit being a loser." And I think people need to get really honest with themselves, right? And just say like, "Hey, have I been sold a bill of goods?" And what do I mean by that? Like the old adage of everything. Oh, you got to work a 9 to 5, like whatever, right? Have you been sold a bill of goods? Like, have you, right? And you probably have. And so I would just tell myself to like, hey, don't take advice from anyone that's not where you want to be. Even if someone's making 400 grand a year, if you want to make 10 million a year, don't take advice from the person that's making 400. Right. Because when I was in the insurance business, perfect example of this, I was looking up to these guys that were higher up and doing better than me. And I would go to conferences and these guys were drinking and getting trashed. And I'm like, hey, where do you invest your money? Like, how do you build wealth? And they're like, oh, I'll just give it to my financial advisor and go. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to be one of these guys. So, okay, I'm done taking advice from these guys. Right.
Yeah,
But I would say that like find some mentors, Derek, go find some mentors and like just, because mentors and successful people love to help like younger guys that are ambitious. Right. And, yeah, I would just tell myself to like wake up, stop doing the dumb stuff and like get it together, dude.
yeah, that's great. And now, Derek, for my last question that I have for you is, what type of legacy do you want to leave on this world? Like, what inspiration? What do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to be remembered as somebody who helped and somebody who like people look up to and say, hey, Derek actually got me out of the trap of thinking small, got me out of the trap of thinking like in a middle class mentality. And like, hey, I actually started to do bigger things because of him. And so that from like a helping other entrepreneurs perspective, um, also other like there's causes that I believe in. Like there's groups that I believe in. Like I'm a big believer in getting people off of drugs and giving kids. What's that?
I said, tell us more about that. Like how did you get involved in those
Like
groups?
because I've done that stuff and it was never any good for me. And if I just had like the right education coming from a person of stature that's done something, maybe I wouldn't have gone down that path. So I have a super like passion for that. Like, hey, if I can help like inner city kids get off drugs, that's cool for me. Like you can build your business as successful as you want, but it doesn't give you that kind of fulfillment. And then also, I'm passionate about like, you know, kids are being prescribed psych drugs when they're 5 and 6 and 7 years old now, and I think it's just preposterous that that occurs, right? And yeah, I'm just very passionate about like getting more awareness out there regarding that. And there's a couple of groups that I support that do that. So
That's a great answer, Derek. And I'm going to agree with you that you have inspired me just to go out and do it. Part of the reason that I'm so entrepreneurial, I look up to a lot of people, but ever since we chatted at Race Fest, I was like, oh, shoot, I got to go and do it. If he did it, I can do it too. So I appreciate you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, bro. Well, thank you so much, Derek, for coming on the podcast. It was a great conversation, and I wish you the best of luck in all your endeavors.
Yeah, you as well, Zeus. We'll chat soon.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you.